If you lived in Las Vegas back in the 70s or 80s and decided to return today, chances are you wouldn't even recognize the city that once shaped a part of your life. Once a promised land for those daring to dream big and placing their full trust in a prosperous American dream, Las Vegas is now grappling with one of the most severe homelessness crises in the United States. Nearly 8,000 homeless people are struggling every day in Las Vegas, in makeshift camps set up in front of the glittering casinos, under bridges, or even deep underground. They no longer embrace dreams, but are merely shadows drifting silently among the dazzling lights. Forgotten souls, trapped in the nightmare of a decaying American dream. In today's video, join us as we step into the epicenter of the homelessness crisis in Las Vegas, a place that hides chilling secrets deep within the underground city meant for those with nowhere to go. In the past, Las Vegas was a place where people came to start anew. A town bright with lights, where people believed that with hard work and saving, they could build a new life. Sometimes with just an old car and a few $100s in their pocket. Retirees choose to live here because of the dry climate, affordable housing, and the feeling that they are stepping into a more breathable part of America. But that was Vegas of decades past. If you ever lived in this city and returned today, you might no longer recognize the place you once believed was a peaceful haven for your twilight years. Las Vegas is now engulfed in the worst homelessness crisis in the city's history. According to the latest statistics, nearly 7,906 people are homeless, an increase of more than 56% from 2020 to early 2025. But those numbers are just the tip of the iceberg, because there are thousands of others living in cars, setting up tents in the desert, sleeping temporarily behind grocery stores who have not been counted in the list. They hide, excluded from all official statistical systems, as if their existence is no longer recognized. Every time we pass by a makeshift tent camp behind the brightly lit hotels in Las Vegas, the first instinct is often to look away. Perhaps because we fear that gaze will touch upon a fear we ourselves do not want to confront. But if we stop, just for a moment, to listen, to look deeper into the lives huddled in the darkness, you will see one thing clearly. They are not strangers. They were once workers, service staff, nurses, drivers, installers. People who contributed to the very breath of this city. They did not choose a life without a home, but the events, an uninsured hospital stay, a round of layoffs, or a landlord raising the rent, have sucked them into a vortex with no way out. Everything collapsed like a row of dominoes. And then you realize their story could very well be the version that will happen to you. But what breaks people's hearts the most is not poverty, but the indifference surrounding it. The flickering lights from the casinos, the cheers from the slot machines, the flashy travel advertisements, all seem to be used to cover up the increasingly larger, simmering dark corners. But no matter how magnificent that facade is, if the inside has begun to rot, sooner or later, it will collapse from within, quietly, until it's too late to fix. The homelessness crisis in Vegas is no longer an exception. It is becoming a stable part of the urban life picture, as if people are gradually learning to live with injustice, as if makeshift tents are an indispensable part alongside the neon lights every night. Las Vegas used to be a symbol of second chances, a place where anyone could start over. But now, it is the very people who built this city, who believed in the American dream right on this land, who are being left behind, forgotten, right in the very heart of the stage of faith they once cherished. And if a place once glamorous and full of opportunities like Las Vegas can change to such an extent, then is there any city truly safe from a similar future, where darkness does not come from the night falling, but from the indifference that is increasingly thickening within us? People often say that Las Vegas is the stage of the American dream, a place where the lights never go out, where hope always has a chance to start anew, and indeed, money has never been lacking here. Every inch of land on the Strip is also gilded. Million-dollar hotels, upscale casinos, shopping malls filled with Louis Vuitton, Gucci, Rolex and suits worth an entire year's salary of an ordinary worker. Yet, just beneath all that opulence lies a completely contrasting world. There, beneath the old sewers of Las Vegas, there are people existing like mole people, hiding in the earth, quietly clinging to the last fragments of hope of a decaying American dream. And Echo Marie is one of them. She used to have a house, had a job. There is a dream. But after a series of misfortunes, losing her job, falling ill, and then being unable to afford rent, Echo, along with her husband and their cute little dog, turned to the sewers as a last resort to continue living. She recounts that living down here is no different from being trapped in a death trap. Damp, dark, full of waste, rats and disease. But the scariest thing is each rainy season, when the water suddenly rises, flooding the sewers, sweeping everything away in less than half an hour. Clothes, medicine, food, and even the remnants of the American dream.
Because some people do get hopeless. It's very easy to give up. Very, very easy to give up out here.
It won't be hard for someone who has lost everything to risk everything just to survive. But it is also heartbreakingly easy for someone who has nothing left to give up everything. Perhaps the biggest gamble in Las Vegas isn't in the casinos, but rather the gamble of the American dream, risking everything just to hope for a fulfilling life. And then, with just one stroke of bad luck, not only the dream, but also the roof over their heads and all hope vanish as if they had never existed. But there is a truth that few want to face. Life as a homeless person would not be so terrifying for Echo, and perhaps for all the mole-like residents living under this tunnel, if those above would stop. Listen to them with all their hearts, instead of hastily turning away and treating them as something to be discarded. Echo said that what has been lost in Vegas is not just a roof over their heads, but compassion. The people living on the ground have lost the ability to see empathy for others. They treat the homeless as if they are no longer part of the species we still take pride in belonging to. And that is the true heartbreak. It's not that they are living underground, but that they are being pushed out of the concept of society. They have no address, no documents, and are not registered to apply for jobs or seek medical treatment. And then, one by one, they sink down, as if they never existed on this earth. You might think that Vegas is the place to live life to the fullest, but perhaps those sewer pipes might make both you and me question. What is the foundation on which the American dream we believe in is built? And who is paying the price to keep that light shining? Do you know where the most homeless people in Las Vegas are living? Not the city shelters or temporary camps, but right beneath the ground, in the dark, damp sewers where light never reaches. In a city famous for its dazzling lights 24 hours a day, that truth sounds like a slap in the face to what people think about Vegas paradise. Las Vegas can spend millions of dollars each night on fireworks, lights, and 3-hour-long shows. But just below that, there are people struggling to survive hour by hour. According to statistics, it is estimated that more than 1,500 people are living in the underground sewer system beneath this city. A significant number for a city still promoted as the top tourist paradise in the United States. Many locals call this the mole people of Vegas, but behind that strange name lies a painful consequence of a city blinded by the light above. Because while tourists still believe that Vegas is paradise, those living beneath their feet are experiencing hell. There is something wrong when a city built to entertain the rich has no shelter for the vulnerable. There is something terrifying when the presence of a person is erased simply because they no longer have documents, no longer have an address. People like Echo are not only pushed underground, but also pushed out of the very concept of society. I remember Las Vegas in the 1980s, where our whole family used to drive from California, eagerly looking at the neon lights and eating a buffet for just $5. But now, I wonder, what is that light shining upon? A dream, or a veil covering the painful truth happening beneath? And if that can happen in Las Vegas, the wealthiest and most famous city in America, then where is safe? Las Vegas used to be an affordable place, a city where retirees, workers, and even veterans could settle down, start anew, and live peacefully. But in recent years, the land once considered a last refuge has become one of the harshest places for low-income individuals. Rent prices have skyrocketed. The average now exceeds $1,700 per month for a one-bedroom apartment. And that doesn't include electricity, water, gas, food, health insurance, all of which are increasing in price every day, while wages are not keeping up. What will you do when rent takes up 70% of your income? When a bottle of milk that used to cost $2 now costs over $5? When the electricity bill this month is double what it was last year? And when the bank informs you that your account only has a few dozen US left after paying the fixed expenses? Which expense would you cut? Meals, medications, or gas money to get to work? Many people choose to camp in their cars. But even that has become a crime in the eyes of the city, as Las Vegas has begun enforcing regulations prohibiting overnight sleeping in vehicles in many areas. Those who once had their own homes now have to secretly sleep behind Walmart parking lots or huddle under bridges to avoid being chased away by the police. There was a homeless man sleeping next to the Costco parking lot who shared, "I never thought that at 60 I would have to choose between buying high blood pressure medication and paying rent. I never thought that at the age of 60 I would have to choose between buying high blood pressure medication and paying rent." Stories like these are no longer rare. They are becoming the sad norm of post-pandemic, post-inflation, post-crisis America. But perhaps what makes people feel most helpless is not the rising cost of living, but rather the feeling of doing everything right, still going to work, still saving, still living decently, yet still unable to hold on. There is nothing more painful than feeling that you are gradually being pushed out by the system, bit by bit, as if your existence is something superfluous. Las Vegas may still welcome millions of tourists each year with smiles, lights, and life-changing invitations. But for its residents, especially the elderly who once believed in the American dream, the most frightening question right now is, do I have enough money to live through next month? In the past, this city had many mobile home parks, low-income apartments, and rental assistance programs for the elderly or low-income individuals. But those old rows of houses have now been flattened to make way for new resorts, luxury apartment buildings only for wealthy tourists or people from other states moving in with deeper pockets. Investors no longer want to rent for $600 to $800 a month. They want $2,000. And if they don't achieve it, they leave it empty, waiting for the right price opportunity. What is the result? It is thousands of people who were once stable, who once paid taxes. Now they have nowhere to go. They are not unemployed. They just can't find anywhere they can afford to rent. According to experts from the Affordable Housing Institute, Las Vegas is currently among the top cities facing a severe shortage of housing for low-income individuals, particularly retirees, veterans, and service industry workers. If you ever thought that real estate was just an investment story, try looking through an abandoned dormitory where people used to jostle for a bunk bed. If you have ever been concerned about the inflation of living costs, ask anyone who has to choose between medication and rent what they would choose to get through the next month. And if you think that losing your home only happens to someone else, remember, just one unexpected medical bill, one job loss, one family crisis, and you too could find yourself caught in this inescapable spiral. But those old rows of houses have now been flattened to make way for new resorts. Luxury apartment buildings only for wealthy tourists or people from other states moving in with deeper pockets. Investors no longer want to rent for $600 to $800 a month. They want $2,000. And if they don't achieve it, they leave it empty, waiting for the right price opportunity. So, in a city built on wealth and promise, the question arises, who deserves to stay, and who, gradually being erased from the map, as if they never existed? There is a bitter paradox unfolding right in the heart of Las Vegas. For the homeless, securing a stable resettlement spot, sometimes even harder than winning the lottery. You think that sounds too much? Let's look at the reality. The city has more than 7,906 homeless people, according to official reports. But the number of long-term resettlement support programs, including affordable housing, health support services, and employment, can be counted on one hand. The Section 8 program was once seen as one of the solutions, but the waiting list has been closed for many years, and when it reopens, the number of applicants always exceeds the capacity by 5 to 7 times. The lucky ones who are selected must overcome a series of paperwork barriers, background checks, and income verification. Things that are nearly impossible if you have been living on the streets for too long. The Las Vegas authorities once announced a series of ambitious plans, from transitional housing for the homeless to integrated vocational training centers. But in reality, these projects often face budget constraints, lack manpower, or are opposed by nearby residents who fear the neighborhood will decline if there's a shelter near their homes. Even in some places, they are built and then left unused. Not enough operators. There is no clear process. No one dares to take responsibility if a risk occurs. Perhaps what drives people to despair is not hunger and cold, but the feeling of being forgotten, being considered too complicated to help, turned into just a name on a list, forever waiting for their turn. Las Vegas doesn't lack the money to build another casino, but when it comes to affordable housing in Las Vegas, a true place to live, it has always been a story put on hold. The Section 8 waitlist is getting longer, and the support centers are overwhelmed. The homeless rehabilitation program in Nevada seems to have yet to reach those living deep underground. If you ever thought that just by trying hard, you would always have a home to return to, then their story will make you reconsider. Have you ever known anyone living on the streets despite having had a stable job? Do you believe that just one slip, any of us could end up in that position? Share your thoughts in the comments, because who knows, your story might make someone else feel heard. And if you believe there is still hope, there are still solutions, please subscribe to join us in exploring the issues hidden beneath the glittering lights of America. Perhaps for many people, when the word shelter is mentioned, the first image that comes to mind is a temporary but safe place. A roof over one's head in the dark night, a refuge during the lost days. But for thousands of homeless people in Las Vegas, those shelters are not a refuge. They are places they want to avoid at all costs. A person who once lived in a shelter in downtown Vegas shared that on her first night there, she couldn't close her eyes. Not because of the noise, but because of fear. In the darkness, there are arguments, fights over personal belongings, the risk of theft, and other dangers. Las Vegas built shelters with the hope of helping, but due to a lack of supervision, manpower, and respect for human dignity, those places have turned into a form of invisible imprisonment. The homeless, already wounded, are now crammed into a cramped space with hundreds of others, each with their own story, their own trauma. And no one is truly healed. Many people choose to return to living in parks, parking lots, or even underground, just to avoid going into the shelter. A person who once volunteered there said, "Many people would rather sleep in a sewer than step in there one more time. A lot of people would rather sleep in a sewer than step into that place one more time." And that explains why, despite the city of Las Vegas announcing more than 4,000 available shelter beds each day, thousands of people still choose to sleep outside. That number does not reflect a lack of demand, but rather a lack of trust. Is there anywhere in America where a sewer is considered safer than a shelter? And if the answer is yes, then where have we failed? When you see someone sleeping on the sidewalk in Las Vegas, what do you think? A lazy person? A lost person? Or simply a person trying to survive in a world that has turned its back? It is heartbreaking to say this. In many places in Las Vegas, homeless people are not only seen as a social problem, but also treated like criminals. Not having a home is already a tragedy, but here, just sleeping in the park, setting up a tent on the sidewalk, or sitting too long in public can get them fined, evicted, or even arrested. The city once enacted a controversial law, allowing fines for homeless people if they sleep in public while shelters still have vacant beds. A regulation that sounds reasonable. If we overlook the fact that many shelters are rife with danger, insecurity, and lack dignity, as you saw in the previous section. We used to take pride in America as the land of opportunity, where anyone could rise up and start anew. But in Las Vegas today, many people are no longer given that opportunity. They are driven out of downtown, subjected to periodic sweeps, and have their personal belongings taken, from flimsy sleeping bags to the last remaining prescription. However, not everyone turns a blind eye. Beneath the ground of Vegas, where the American dream rots in darkness and dampness, there are still small lights. Shine a Light Foundation, an organization that reaches out to people living in the sewer system, or the care complex, which helps find stable housing for the homeless, are striving to preserve the remaining humanity of this city. But they are just a minority. And if the rest of society continues to turn away, then those efforts are just like a weak flashlight trying to illuminate the entire desert at night. If you have ever lost your job, struggled with a medical bill, or panicked over a family crisis, you will understand. The gap between an ordinary citizen and a homeless person is actually thinner than you think. So, if you still have a roof over your head, a bed to lie down on every night, please don't hastily turn your back on those who were once like you. They are not criminals. They are a vivid warning of a system in disarray, and also a mirror reflecting what could happen to any of us. Las Vegas used to be a symbol of hope for the working class, a place where anyone could start anew. But now, it is becoming a warning for the rest of America. If compassion is not awakened, if injustice continues in silence, then the future we leave for our children will only be a deep crack in the heart of this very city. Perhaps the American dream still exists, but it is being wagered every day by our silence. And perhaps what needs to save Las Vegas is not another new casino or another billion-dollar project, but a simple reminder: we are still living together, and no one deserves to disappear into the darkness. What do you think about the chilling secrets of the homelessness crisis in Las Vegas? Please share your thoughts in the comments section. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to support the channel and stay updated with our latest videos. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video. This video is made with the purpose of reflecting society and sparking dialogue, not to stereotype, incite, or negatively target any individual or organization. All information is compiled from reputable sources, carefully selected to serve the purpose of education and raising community awareness. We always encourage viewers to consult multiple sources and form their own perspectives.